1980s Americana is famous for one thing: excess. Colours were loud, clothes were showy, haircuts were fearsome, the TV was pretty ridiculous, as were the movies. All these things can be witnessed watching MTV in its mid-80s infancy, as 1980s music videos captured all that American excess as a microcosm of cultural zeitgeist. And no band better exemplified that than Motley Crüe. A lot has been written about Motley Crue's music, and for the most part, from the mid-90s onwards, it's been pretty negative. Hair or glam metal is seen as a punchline to most jokes about poor music. As soon as the likes of Kurt Cobain, Layne Staley and Eddie Vedder popped on their tutty jeans and their flannel shirts for the grunge era, public opinion turned on the flashy spectacle and hammy lyrics of glam metal. Looking back with modern eyes, it's hard to believe that these guys were the epitome of cool. But times do change, as do tastes, and certainly there is a lot more musical depth perhaps to be found in the lyrics and compositions in other genres. But let's not dismiss glam metal out of hand. Music, though, is only half the story of the people we're about to talk about, Motley Crüe. Ridiculous amounts of drugs, groupies, drink, and property damage would see the band become infamous and notorious as the archetype of every comedically excessive band in fiction from there on in. When it came to debauchery, Motley Crue's 4 band members, singer Vince Neil, bassist and songwriter Nikki Sixx, elder statesman and guitarist Mick Mars, and crazed animal drummer Tommy Lee, would be, to paraphrase Morrissey, well, Caligula would have blushed. Then Morrissey would probably say something about sausages being bad, or something a bit UKIP-y, but that's not relevant here. If you want a crash course on just how ridiculous Motley Crüe were in their pomp, it's worth reading their biography The Dirt, or watching the 2019 Netflix movie based on that book. If what Ozzy Osbourne doesn't make you wince just a little bit, then you're a bizarre human being who should be on every government watch list. With what we've discussed so far about Motley Crüe, let's get to their video game. Released by Electronic Arts in 1992, Crueball is a video pinball game with a metal bent to it. A 3-screen high table all decked out in a dark light style effect that looks like one of them their musical concerts that them their young'uns go to, and what we used to go to, but we don't now because they're too noisy. Give me a quiet pub any day. The ball physics are okayish, with the spheroid bouncing about as a small metal ball should do, though at times it acts slightly less weighty than it would do in real life. There's also a couple of off-the-table mini-games to bounce about featuring skeletons and the like, and the main table has a lot of things walking about on it that obviously wouldn't be possible in a real pinball game. If you get to the end of the game, then you have to put your balls in this fat man's mouth to end it. Good lord. There's one big influence on Crueball, and that just so happens to be Dragon's Fury, better known to you and I as Devil's Crash. Now, there is a pinball game that feels like it's come from a metal album, albeit perhaps a metal band like Anthrax or Iron Maiden, as opposed to Motley Crüe. But look, if you look at the little pentagram there, Motley Crüe used that, didn't they? Devil's Crash was fantastic, packed with hundreds of things to hit, fantastic music, brilliant physics, and tons of bonus games. It is, without a doubt, the single best video pinball game that was ever released. Crueball is a lot of that too, but significantly less so. There's less characters to hit, less mini games, less chance to access those mini games, less on a screen at any time. It's just less. It's less fun. It's a tribute act. At best, it's fun enough, but it is less than Devil's Crash. So you may as well just go and play Devil's Crash. Now, you may be wondering why I haven't mentioned Motley Crüe very much since I started talking about the game. That's because they're barely represented. The aesthetic is generically rock, with graphic equalisers, skeletons, and these sort of Mozarty busts there to be broken and their brains to spill out. Dude! But now, a Motley Crüe table would be very different to me. It would feature an army of ants to be hit, like Ozzy Osbourne snorts up. Woof! Perhaps a rolled up note to suck the ball up. You know where I'm going with that. And if we're being crass, and it's a Motley Crüe game, so it needs to be crass, you should straight up have to fire the ball right between a groupie's legs and into a little off-map mini-game set in her birth canal. That's Motley Crüe, not this Navy mixing desk or whatever it is. Hell, though there are 3 Motley Crüe tracks in the game, pumped out reasonably well by the Megadrive's YM2612 chip, they're rarely played during the game. There's no sign of any pictures of the band or any album artwork, say. No pictures of crowds at a Motley Crüe festival, no groupies being done from behind, no cocaine being snorted, no millions of shots being drunk all at once. So why is this? Where are Motley Crüe in their own game? Well, there's a story there. It wasn't a Motley Crüe game originally. The developers New FX, who previously made Rygar's conversion on the Atari Lynx, were making a game for EA called Twisted Flipper, and indeed review copies sent to magazines like Mean Machine seem to confirm this, as there's no mention of Motley Crüe or the name Crueball in the review at all. Earlier on in development, producer Richard Robbins had pitched the game to MTV, hoping to get the name Headbangers Ball, after the channel's foremost heavy metal programming of the time. Of course, Headbangers Ball fits with a pinball game. MTV decided against it, and so EA went back to the name Twisted Flipper, and then decided they did want a license after all, and went cap in hand to Motley Crüe, hence Crueball and the low levels of content from the band themselves. In truth, Motley Crüe's best days had passed at this point anyway, as Vince Neil had jumped ship and grunge was on its unstoppable rise at the time. So Crueball basically is a tribute band to a much better act, which has at the last minute got into a second-hand shop, found a cut-off denim jacket and ironed on some patches with Motley Crüe on them. It didn't get a sequel, funnily enough. Right, I'm off to do some speedballs, drink a bottle or 2 of Jack Daniels, and pop my genitals in an adoring fan backstage. Not really. There are some tiles to grout, and that jigsaw, that ain't gonna finish itself. Oh, baked bean jigsaw's the bane of my life. Okay, thanks, bye.